we've been in the provinces almost 4 to 5 days now. You've listened to your party militants, what they have been crying for. You've heard their challenges that they have been facing decades now. If you become a president in 2026, what's your biggest promise to Gambian people, sir?
It is not a question of if you become president in 2026. It should be when you become president in 2026. And my promise to the people, just as I said yesterday, I'm making a promise to you that I will take care of the most pertinent issues that concern the Gambian population. And that pertinent issue is the cost of living, the low earning capacities of everyone except those who hold executive positions in the government. Other than them, the earnings of everyone, including permanent secretaries, are low. So we take care of those things so that they can be motivated, they can give the optimum to the people of the Gambia, because they are paid to do that, but then they have been hindered in doing so because they want to find better living conditions for their families, and that distracts them from doing their work properly.
When you become a president next year, sir, what will be your immediate action in the first 3 months in office, sir?
In the first 3 months in office, we will review the budget that will be presented in December of 2026, because by then we will not have any executive. That will put a budget that will be presented by the Bar administration. So for the first 3 months of our government, we will review that budget, throw away all the wastages, make sure that the priority areas are well funded, are properly funded. We will put in place, we'll put in motion the achievement of the Maputo Declaration, and to say 10% of the national budget to be allocated to agriculture. We'll start there, we'll look at the budget and then cut away all these things and then make substantial allocation to the Department of Agriculture, to the agricultural sector. And we'll do away with all these big cars. We'll do away with all these frequent workshops and seminars. I mean, the public servants, they are happy with it because their earnings is not much. So they have to depend on seminars and workshops to supplement their poor wages. And we will look into that. So we will review the budget, and then the presidency, I can assure you that the presidency, the budget will go down. Because when I get in, there will be a reduction in the emoluments of the president. And when I say emoluments, I mean the salary and other allowances that are given to the president's office. I mean, we will definitely reduce them. And then we would expect also our ministers to also accept a salary reduction. In fact, we'll impose it, because if you look at the budget and reduce the president's salary, it will go down the same thing for all other ministers. The permanent secretaries and those civil servants will not touch, because we want to get them well motivated, we want to make them work and deliver to the people of the Gambia. But those who hold executive political positions, certainly those are positions of privileges. So the remuneration, should be the privilege. You among how many Gambians are chosen to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs? That is a big, big privilege. So should not be an office where you expect, to make money. Minister president are not president where you expect to make money. Presidency is not a position that we are expected to make money. We ask people to give us their confidence, repose their confidence in us, give us the mandate. That privilege is what should be satisfying to all of us.
So, if you become the president in 2026, how many terms are you going to serve?
We will not serve more than 2 terms. Even if we would have 2 terms, we will not serve more than 2 terms. I'm not even sure whether we will serve 2 terms. I'm not even sure of that. I'm not
You are not so.
I'm not sure, but if you do, it certainly will not be more than 2 terms. Whether it is written in the Constitution or not written in the Constitution. And it will start from 2026. We are not going to say that this is going to be something retroactive. We are not going to say that.
When you become a president next year, what government sectors will you want to revive when we win the election, and why do you want to revive those sectors?
Certainly, we want to revive the cooperative union.
Why?
Because that is the farmers' market. That's where you really help the farmers. I remember when I was whether I was a child or when I was still going to school, there was a big circle here. At this time of the year, when the trace is declared open, you hear the donkeys, the bells ring, the killing, the bells, and you know that yes, that trace is on. People take their produce to the circles, weigh them, and when they're taken off the scales, they are paid there immediately. They are paid the price that should be paid to them. During the rainy seasons, the cooperative union comes around the country, gives loans to farmers to sustain them through the month they call August, because they say that's the hardest month, of the year, to help them, go over the difficulties of the rainy season. We'll revive that. We'll also make sure that Sapo, which now a deserted village, will revive it so that our agricultural activities in the areas of rice production can be resumed, and resumed in a way that will help to secure for us food security. And maybe from food security, we move on to food sovereignty. That is what we want to do. We certainly revive Sapo. We revive Jinoi, all these agricultural centers. We revive them because agriculture is the backbone of this country. And when we're talking of food security, for most Gambians, is really rice production must be maximized. And we must not also forget whose production, cereal, we must not forget them.
So what your government will do to the health sector, the country's health sector, because we have seen many people are complaining about the Gambian health sector. Some are saying that when you go to the hospital, you have any drugs there, and we have seen the president and the minister there went outside for treatment. So what mechanism do you have where your government in put in place?
But that is also an area which needs proper funding. The budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Health or to the health sector. So we'll really look into it. You see, I've always said that the North Bank region of the Gambia has been a most neglected part from colonial days up to now. You are talking of proper health service delivery. I always ask the question, if you have an emergency at night in Esau, in Kanuma, in Bunyadu, and it is after 10 o'clock, no fire service, how do you handle that? The Farafeni hospital is not equipped. And I want to say that SO Health Center have to be upgraded to a person of a referral, of a major referral hospital, so that all manner of medical attention that people need can be delivered on that site. I believe that yes, we should build up clinics in other places, but then we must have a major center where those clinics will be feeding in cases of referrals. I'm not saying that you shouldn't build up clinics, but before I do so, I will equip all these general hospitals properly, so that there will be no need for any minister to go to Dakar for certain medical checkups, to go to Dakar for medical treatments. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's happening. It's happening. I mean, people live here to go to Dakar for medical examination, go to Dakar for medical treatment, and some go as far as India, as far as Turkey. Who can afford that? For the civil servants, senior civil servants, and government ministers, there's a budget allocation for them. My mother here, she just left to go to us. Yeah. If she's in a condition which would need medical treatment outside of the Gambia, the government is not going to provide for her. But why would government not provide? Why would government provide for the president's mother, but it will not provide for my mother? So we must all be equal. We will pay special attention to the health delivery sector. I'm a big advocate of, I'm a big advocate for the nurses who work at the emergency centers. You go to Banjul, you go to the emergency unit, you feel sorry for these nurses. You go to Bakau, the Banks clinic, you feel sorry for these nurses and the doctors who attend patients who are in traumatic situations. I'm saying that, look, and these trauma are caused by accidents, road accidents. Sometimes the road accidents are fatal. I'm saying that the money that is collected in terms of road tax and so forth, at least, if not 50%, at least 25% of that should be given to the hospitals, the Ministry of Health, for distribution, so that when people get involved in accidents, they can be properly taken care of. I'm saying that when you take those people to court for careless driving and they are fined, part of that fine should be given to the hospital, because they are the ones who take care of the people who are involved in these accidents. And they have conditions. You find them in a situation, you really feel sorry for them. They want to attend to every sick person in a situation of trauma. But then, the facilities for them to do so is not there. The rooms are small, there's a great deal of congestion. Sometimes you cannot even distinguish who is the patient, who is the nurse, and who is the doctor. Sometimes you cannot, and who is the scribe. So I think that area should also be really look into it and apply the proper measures so that we ameliorate the situation.
Okay. Before we
So
end
that's
this
mean,
interview, sir.
that's mean when you okay.
Before we end this interview, sir, when you become president from next year, what will be your relationship to the government, to the Gambian journalists, to the media? We need to know what relationship with.
Well, I think the relationship I have with the media now, you'll have a better relationship than that. You know, I have a very friendly relationship with the media. I do not believe that anybody should be gagged. I don't believe that anybody should be muscled. I don't believe that you should have a law that would, or make statements that will make media practitioners impose censorship on themselves. You don't have any law sorry, but your attitude, your statements, it's a caution to the media practitioners, and they start thinking, oh, let me not write this because they might take this way. So that's self-censorship. We will not create a situation that will allow any censorship in this country, whether imposed by government or imposed by journalists themselves on themselves. I have been since 1973 when I became a lawyer. I have been a strong advocate of freedom of speech, and that will continue. We'll be very friendly with it, we'll be very, very friendly with the media, and we'll help the media to promote them, promote themselves. And when I say promote, I don't mean that, to positions, but to make work for themselves easier, and they will not be hindered in any way. We'll make sure that, that they have training facilities, and will not be discriminatory in giving out assistance to media houses. Because you can see last time, about $40 million or so was distributed, but amongst selected media houses. We will not do that. It should be, everyone, every media house will enjoy it. If it's going to be $100,000 for each media, that would be a starting point. But you cannot give to media house A and deny media house B. That is discriminatory. You will not allow that.
Thank you very much. We come to the end of this interview.
Thank you.
We really thank you very much for the time. Thank you so much.